All right, Ellen, thank you so much for that warm introduction. Everyone, again, appreciate your time today. I know we're excited to share with you not only some of the long-standing legacy products that we've built over the last 4 years, but more importantly, we're going to also share with you a couple of new releases and new solutions that really add to the comprehensiveness of our global managed SD-WAN solution. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into an agenda for you. We want to share with you next a short video. It's about a 2-minute video, as Ellen mentioned, that digs a little bit more into AireSpring's global managed SD-WAN solution. And within that video, we're going to share with you a little bit more about the top 10 reasons why CTOs choose AireSpring's global managed services. And since we're a single source provider, or what many refer to as next generation aggregator, where a lot of clients can evaluate and source most, if not of all, the infrastructure needs through one vendor, with one agreement, with one bill, and under one point of contact, which is really nice. This 2-minute video is going to give you a little bit better feel for the solution sets at hand. At that point, we're going to get into AireSpring and VMware. Why is that a winning combination for us as we've rolled out the global SD-WAN deployment solution? I think one topic that we're going to spend a little bit more time on today that many of you may or may not be familiar with, but it should reset the stage for what enterprises deal with in China. We're going to go through the when, how, and what of the Great Firewall of China. And then we're going to get back into and dig a little more deeper into the different solution sets that we have just uncovered today. The global managed internet procurement and connectivity portion, our global private network with additional focus on premium internet access China. I think you're going to find that very beneficial. And then we're going to get into how these different solutions increase application performance. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers. And then Ellen will take us through our company updates. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started, and let's spend a couple minutes within our video.
Cloud computing as we know it is in the midst of a digital transformation. As businesses continue to move mission-critical applications to the cloud, they require improved performance, flexible bandwidth, and more control than what traditional WAN networks offer. That's precisely why AireSpring created Managed Global SD-WAN, a fully managed, comprehensive, end-to-end solution for organizations undertaking the digital transformation journey. Let's take a closer look at the top 10 opportunities for you to join CTOs, consultants, and networking professionals in leveraging Managed Global SD-WAN from AireSpring. Power your solution with VMware SD-WAN by VeloCloud, a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader. Utilize a fully managed Layer 2 global private network backed by a service level agreement that replaces the inherent unreliability of long-haul public internet access to reduce latency, packet loss, and jitter. Build a hybrid network using a combination of a global private network and the public internet for maximal flexibility. Access multiple points of presence across the globe. Replace or augment expensive, capacity-constrained legacy MPLS networks. Leverage powerful orchestration and management tools to provide deep granularity and improved control. Connect directly to the cloud for enhanced application performance. Gain access to highly available, dedicated connectivity to and from locations in China. Partner with a single vendor to source, design, implement, and support internet connections for last-mile circuits globally. Be protected by proactive 24/7, 365 network monitoring and resolution, covering all connectivity, whether provided by AireSpring or other vendors. AireSpring's managed global connectivity solution offers considerable flexibility, enabling you to mix and match deployment options that best fit your geographic location and performance objectives. Combined with our global internet connectivity procurement service, you truly have one vendor for worldwide broadband, LTE, Ethernet, satellite, and MPLS services, all under one bill and one point of contact. Want to learn more? Contact an authorized AireSpring partner or call us today.
All right, so that should really give everybody a good feel for the overall solution set, where we fit within the global SD-WAN arena. And as we dig into this, it's really important to understand where we were. As Ellen mentioned, we came into this approximately 5 years ago, and our solutions engineering team, our operations folks, as well as our executives, went through the entire process to really look at and start to vet and determine who we felt would be the best and one of the top ones to go to market with. So we landed on VMware, and we did that based upon the solutions that they offered, their roadmaps of where they were heading, and it gave us a chance to really continue to go out and build that. And because they were named the leader in global SD-WAN within the critical capabilities for WAN edge infrastructure, it made sense as we were looking to deploy AireSpring's global private network and our over-the-top deployment solutions. And we landed on them again because they were the market leader in superior edge reliability. They provided us and our clients a quick and cost-effective deployment for new locations. And we overlaid that with our global internet connectivity and with the capabilities of the SD-WAN edge device and the specifics around dynamic multipath optimization and deep application recognition. This was critical in ensuring that we could offer our clients the solutions that they needed to not only provide increased application performance, but more importantly, consistency within those applications and the delivery around that. So with that, we did roll out. We have over 23 global locations today with the mission and the focus around consistent global connectivity, as well as accelerated application performance. When we take this and we combine the economics and deployment flexibility that we have, in many, if not all cases, we're able to meet any customer requirement that we've seen, from organizations that have as little as 2 or 3 locations within the US to other organizations in manufacturing and insurance that have hundreds of locations globally. So when we look at this and focusing on our SD-WAN deployment advantage, as we said, we find that locations and branch offices can be located anywhere within the US or internationally in far-reaching areas. And we're able to deploy that SD-WAN edge device technology all the way out to those branch offices, or it could be construction sites, it could be a combination of utilizing a legacy data center, or even the modern data centers that we see today within virtualization and virtualized environments. And the goal, and first and foremost, was really to look at those different branch offices, have a solution, in this case, the SD-WAN edge devices, that we could go out and provision sites quickly. And we would allow the organizations where they could utilize multiple underlay links, whether it be their existing MPLS connectivity today, could be dedicated internet access, or broadband. In any respect, those can be delivered, the edge devices deployed, and then we overlaid that to allow any one of our enterprise organizations to gain visibility across any one of those links. And we did that, and we do that by ensuring that we allow them access through our VMware orchestrator, so they can focus in and we can support them in either a fully managed or co-managed environment to ensure that applications are being delivered appropriately. The links are in a state where they're always up and being monitored, and then focusing even more importantly into those mission critical applications like ERP applications or logistics, those that are necessary to ensure productivity continues across their organization. So to set the stage on that, one of the primary topics we wanted to get in today was around the Great Firewall of China, or what we refer to as the Golden Shield product. We want to focus in today on the when, how, and what of the Great Firewall of China. What does this mean for your websites and applications? And then how to get around the Great Firewall of China. And we're going to share with you again those key approaches and solutions to do that. So to look at this, we need to start as far as the when. And one of the key thought processes were, or again, one of the sayings go back to the early 1980s with Deng Xiaoping, who was a leader who brought forth a lot of the economic reforms through the creation of this market economy. And he famously noted that if you open the window for fresh air, some flies will be blowing in. Now, what this really meant was that while they wanted to open up China to the world, this had a good chance of bringing economic development and progress, but it could also inevitably bring in unwanted Western beliefs and ideologies that the Chinese government felt and viewed as corrupted. So they took that into account, knowing that they wanted to do their checks and balances of not only increasing their economic reach, but they also felt that they realized they had to be aware of what the negative impact would be. So during that time, they went ahead and started to look into and create back in 1994, the internet was made available to the Chinese nation. Now that ran for a number of years, and at that time, China again started to develop and build out that Golden Shield project. And they ironically brought in foreign companies from the US like Nortel and Cisco to do that. And so over the course of time, going up from 1998 to where it is today, it has really become a complex architecture with multiple layers of controlled tricks that we're going to get into today, methodologies that they use to block access to a lot of those websites that impact traffic to and from and in and out of China. And what a lot of companies have experienced, or individuals, if any of us on this call has ever been to China or have experienced that, access to certain foreign websites such as Google or YouTube are either blocked or intentionally slowed down. And you can imagine, that presents a huge obstacle for foreign enterprises seeking to gain a foothold in China. And because the Great Firewall of China is part of the People's Republic of China, it also enforces a lot of censorship regime that's designed to regulate the internet and protect its citizens and its way of life, as they would say. So when you look at that, many times they've designed this in a way that you won't even notice the website's been blocked. And if you land on a certain website that's blocked, you won't see any warning of information around that. So once we've set the stage for that, it's important to understand different methodologies incorporated as part of that Great Firewall of China. One of the most popular methodologies is blocking of IP access. When you think about how many websites there are today across the globe, hundreds of thousands of these designed in the US, designed in other foreign countries, it has been determined, and the latest estimate is around 10,000 sites that China has blocked. It could be obviously .com sites, Google, broadcasting, news and media, you name it. And because they utilize blocking of IP access, that is widely known and commonly used today. And even if you try to access a website directly using the correct IP address of a website, if that IP is blocked by using this type of technique, you won't be able to access it. Another methodology that is very popular and they've used for a number of years is DNS poisoning or spoofing. And when users connect to different websites, computers will contact that DNS server. If you look at the diagram on the right, you can see where a client is trying to access that DNS server. And once it hits that DNS server, it's not uncommon for either bad actors or somebody who is censoring that sits within China, and they will either set up and they'll inject a false DNS entry. And now at that point, what usually happens is it's important to understand that once you hit that DNS server, it is going to either be redirected and the request resolves to a fake website, or if it matches an approved category or list, then you'll be accessed to the real website. So it's another way to do that. You won't be able to access the website in that case either. As we all know over the course of time and what the general mission was for the Great Firewall of China, it really came down to censorship. You can't see stuff, information, you can't speak it, you can't hear it. And URLs analysis and filtering is a common practice where website traffic is filtered based upon that URL or filtering database that they have, and that is a constantly growing database. And that China's firewall can block that entire website and those selected pages, or get very, very specific into blocked keywords. Great example. I think most people on this call, I'm sure, are familiar with Wikipedia. China, at one point, it does allow for some access to that, but it does have the capability to go through. And specifically to keywords within an article, the article that we're referring to is the Wikipedia article regarding internet censorship in China. Well, they can take that apart and focus in and actually block that article where the words internet censorship are utilized. And there's a lot of examples. I mean, we've all experienced it. We've seen it, a lot of our clients see that. Other keywords could be something like Tiananmen Square, or when COVID was a big deal, because of the originations, there was a lot of censorship going on in that area. So those are some key methodologies. A few more that are really important, which I think a lot of people will be surprised by, is what type of manual enforcement China goes to and the great lengths that they go to by employing hundreds of thousands of civilian workers to enforce censorship and filter out what they refer to as harmful content that they consider detrimental to the progress of China. So some sites will provide even a back-end access to allow a specific censor worker to go in and edit that content directly. And then you combine with the latest developments. We're seeing artificial intelligence technology not only being developed and growing, and now this has allowed monitoring processes to really go to an automated process. So you combine the two of manual enforcement with artificial intelligence, it now has the capability to automate many different methodologies and tricks, even going so far as to implementing deep packet inspection, which again is a technique used to deploy and expensively inspect incoming and outgoing unencrypted network traffic for packets filtering and blocking data packets that contain that sensitive information. So they deploy all of these along with resetting different connections. I mean, think about this. If you're an enterprise organization, you're working within China, and then you start to look at having to reset and communications between different devices and servers. They've got the capabilities to go in. And so when you start to feel connection periods go down, servers being reset, your employees who work in China or are trying to get access back in and out of China experience downtime and things of this nature. It impacts that productivity. And then two, VPNs are always the way to get in and out of China and give them easy access. While VPN is still one of the most easily placed ways to go about it, China continues to go through and learn and evolve their censorship and blocking of those different VPN attributes. So it's an ongoing process, and both people are learning more and more of how to get in, and China continues to look at ways to keep that out. So what does that mean for your websites and applications, right? You take those methodologies, they're constantly incorporating those into their process. By doing so, it absolutely hinders any organization who may have sensitive information anywhere on their site and those applications that they may or may not know about. And so it impacts productivity tools, it impacts the social sites that we utilize or they utilize today, news and media, search engines, you name it. And even sporadically into VoIP calling. While Skype has been blocked partially, organizations that are trying to get it out, utilize that type of service, will sometimes have decent, consistent performance, while at the same time, within 4 hours later, or even a few minutes, may experience dropped calls. Also, if you start to look at this from third-party services that are blocked, open source libraries, vendors, websites, applications, if they can very easily fail to function properly and are inaccessible. Combine that with agencies from marketing, working on .com sites, any types of banned advertisements, those will not appear on the pages that are being distributed there. So it is a huge impact. What does that mean to different businesses? Since traffic to those websites and applications go through this intensive inspection process, your client's going to face constant website speed and performance issues. And if anybody's been around content delivery and understanding how to provide page views and things of that nature, a 1 second delay in page load time can be consequential, meaning there can be as much as a 7% loss in conversions. It can be as much as 11% fewer page views, and then ultimately leads to a very poor either customer experience or, in this case, your own employee experience. One of the things we ran into recently too that was another item to keep in mind is that because China has a huge population, and now they're over 1 billion within having access to the internet penetration, and the penetration rate sitting just over 74%, you can imagine during stress peak times, during peak hours, those individuals hitting that, has a negative impact on performance, especially anything that goes over the top. And this is one of the reasons we look at why a global private network can bypass a lot of that from a public internet perspective. So how do we get around the Great Firewall of China? Some of the approaches and solutions we're going to get into. We're going to spend a little bit of time again on global internet connectivity, our global managed SD-WAN and global private network, as well as share with you some unique things that we're doing in some newly released solutions around premium internet access China and our US global AireSpring gateway access. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we've got the capability within our AireSpring global business unit to go ahead and reach essentially anywhere in the globe. And we partner today with right around 3,000 local suppliers in over 190 countries. And if you think about the coverage we've got from agreements in place to carrier reach and the flexibility and options we've got extensive coverage across North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the other continents. Primary focus for us with our global internet connectivity is to provide that last mile circuit procurement where we can source, implement, and support any of those circuits that our clients need or your clients need. And so when companies are looking to have diversity in their network, we can provide that. We can provide diversity in our carrier mix to ensure that we're giving those clients the best available uptimes and so forth that come along with last mile circuit procurement. We also do provide, not only in the US, but also internationally, proactive third-party internet monitoring on a per circuit basis for a nominal fee. Many of our global enterprise customers like this because it does give them 24/7, 365 capabilities for troubleshooting and for us to go ahead and resolve. Think about it for a minute. When you're an IT manager, and especially within the industry that you may be sitting in, or your client sits in, they could be a retail site. We've experienced this directly where retail is not usually known for having, a lot of strength within remote IT staff within those remote locations. And so when you look at what we do for our clients in that respect, an IT director could be in New York, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. It's going to be pretty hard for them to help and get on calls to troubleshoot and resolve something that is an issue within an internet connectivity environment within Frankfurt or Italy or in China. And so we go to work with this type of solution. We work with the carriers through letter of agency or letter of authority, and we're able to work with them to troubleshoot and then resolve that. And when that IT director gets back into the office that morning, there's a good chance that has already been solved and that location is up and running, not relying on local folks to try and resolve that. Because of our time and energy that we're putting into our global internet connectivity solutions, we continue to expand upon our partnerships. Many of these different logos may be familiar to you. There's a lot of them that won't be, and we're continuing to grow and make sure we get 100% coverage across that you saw on the previous slide. Now, shifting gears, we talk about the global internet connectivity, how we can satisfy that last mile location and branch office or manufacturing site. Now it's important to take that and look at what we can do and what we provide for our enterprise companies from a global perspective on a global private network. Today we have 23 GPN POP locations. These are highly available, dedicated access as well, not only in far-reaching areas from Europe, but also dedicated access to and from locations in China. And we continue to expand this international reach with the primary focus around giving our clients the capability to take those mission critical applications or those deemed to go back into other locations throughout the world and increase that application performance, giving them consistent connectivity to reduce packet loss, latency, and jitter. And again, primary focus, bypassing a lot of the stringent regulations that go on within China. What does a typical global private network deployment look like? This gives you a good look at what we do on a global scale. And our primary focus is getting down to where that last mile location is, providing the best of breed VMware edge device technology, plugging that in at those locations, and then ultimately helping procure or manage the existing circuits that client has today, and then looking at that and directing those to one of the closest global private network POPs within their market, within their region. And if they've got multiple locations within those different regions, we can look at aggregating those different locations and servicing them out of one global private network POP, and then ensuring that they can get on that off-ramp, what we refer to as the Autobahn, and taking that traffic and moving it across in a very, very consistent fashion, bypassing the internet, bypassing the third-party inspection that goes on within China, and then ultimately dropping that off as the off-ramp to get them local access back out to those managed cloud connections or managed cloud services that they may need, that they can get access to here in the US. One of the other solutions we're really excited about that we want to share with you today is our US Global AireSpring Gateway Access. And we've been doing this for years in the US out of our Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and Dallas POPs. But we've taken that and now we've expanded it globally. And the primary point to look at here is, how do we help organizations utilize our global private network POP? And we do that by including an AireSpring IP address. So when we look at this, working with our solution engineers, our primary focus is providing our clients what we refer to as IP mobility. And that is literally and figuratively assessing where that IP address follows the box, in this case, the edge device. So if you're sitting in Dallas and you decide to move your location, or if you have an office in Los Angeles, you're closing that down, and you decide that you're going to move your enterprise location to Chicago or New York, that IP mobility, it follows the box directly. And one of the other key features of IP mobility, just from the sheer support, is IP mobility is designed to ensure that if circuits drop or the firewall's IP addresses remain reachable and those don't change. Otherwise, firewalls always dump their state table, resulting in all that different data and all the different voice connections dropping. Think about the impact that has if you're sitting in Sao Paulo and you've got data centers or you've got branch offices there and you're having a call over the internet and that voice connection drops. Or if you have a call center, we have a lot of clients who may have contact centers in the Philippines or in India. If those drop, it's a bad experience and it costs organizations revenue, time, productivity. One of the other key components of Global AireSpring Gateway Access is IP stability, where they keep the same IP, but they can utilize and they spread that over the multiple underlay carriers as shown here. So that will reside across any one or any two of those different carriers or more. Another key component is IP independence, which we refer to as no carrier lock. Think about replacing a underlay carrier due to cost, termination, whatever the issue may be, and you decide you can get that from a better, cheaper price as we look at expense management control. By being able to have IP independence and no carrier lock, that allows you to move that IP over that third provider. Two other key components that make up our Global AireSpring Gateway Access that organizations like is what we refer to as three-quarter protection. That allows SD-WAN enhancement of any app, any protocol, to any internet destination. And it basically gives that internet destination 3/4 of the way there, resulting in 10x better performance versus utilizing just a simple raw unprotected internet usage. 2 millisecond failover time is huge in a packet versus session-based solution that we offer. Without Global AireSpring Gateway Access in those far-reaching areas, failover times can be up to 2,000 milliseconds, which equates to 2 seconds if a circuit drops. You can imagine the impact that has on those mission-critical applications like voice and data that's traversing that. Shifting gears to our last product we're going to talk about, and our last solution is what we refer to as Premium Internet Access China. Now, thinking about what we talked about earlier, and you think about what the IT manager faces when they think about doing business and the uniqueness of China, using dedicated internet access and a purely local internet service has limited access to those global applications, and it causes a lot of challenges there. AireSpring's PIAC from mainland China back to the US truly enables undisturbed optimal internet access to global resources like those you see on the left, whether it be Office 365, Google, other cloud-based apps, or even ERP systems where they know that critical information and that critical data has to be taken and have a consistent connection back into the US to utilize those productivity tools. So how does it work? Because we focus on global reach with unmatched deployment flexibility, PIAC was designed to help organizations by satisfying and ensuring that they have low latency, they have secure transport, we can bypass the Great Firewall of China, and we do that by incorporating everything that we just talked about. Starting at the last mile location is where we can deploy those edge devices in either a single or a high availability configuration. We then can help with our last mile circuit procurement, where we can offer at the minimum and recommend at least 2 last mile internet circuits, and we overlay that with our AirNMS link monitoring to give our clients 24/7, 365 visibility to troubleshoot and resolve. Now, the other main component that makes up premium internet access is allowing our clients who have branch offices and manufacturing sites sitting within China to access any one of our 8 global private network POPs in China within those markets and regions. And by doing so, we're able to take that application traffic, identify at the edge device of what's mission critical, what stays local versus that higher level business profile traffic that's critical to their business, and take that across our global private network where we have a SLA-backed global private network where we can get and stay consistent within millisecond round trip latency of anywhere from 135 to 170 milliseconds to bring that across and off-ramp that back into our Los Angeles global private network POP, where then we take advantage of our AireSpring gateways and a specific US AireSpring static IP address that then allows them to get out and get to the ERP systems to carry that onward, or access to a lot of those cloud-based applications and solutions that they wouldn't normally get to within China. So how does this all come together? And it's important to focus on, and for today, we're just going to spend a little bit of time on one specific use case because we see it a lot. You may have clients who are manufacturing or healthcare or technology, but they all have kind of the same similar challenges, especially coming in and out of China. But manufacturing specifically really falls into some challenges around where they're seeing a larger increase in connected and Internet of Things devices that all try and evolve the manufacturing industry. And network solutions need to be able to manage and leverage those different connections. And if they don't have streamlined deployment processes, much like we just shared with you, and they don't have visibility from a high level as far as how those links are performing with some of our edge network intelligence, as well as our SD-WAN orchestrator, where they can manage it or we can, this puts a heavy burden on IT and the production staff. The other key component about global private networks and having your own private expressway or freeway, a lot of these organizations and a lot of manufacturing companies have long data replication times. And you can't do long data replication over the public internet consistently. So that's an impact there. So how do we help from a results perspective? We find that manufacturers now are able to isolate a lot of those network segments. They can break it down into the business units that we see, different departments and processes. And SD-WAN in and of itself allows for that simple management and prioritization of network traffic to ensure that business critical communication has best connections available. So now you're able to run that real-time data sharing of those applications. You can support predictive logistics applications, ERP, and other productivity tools that normally they couldn't do effectively. Ultimately, it comes down to discussions that we have with the agents who in turn have clients who fit the description for having locations in and out of China or globally. it really comes down to maintaining what we refer to as quality of experience. As you can see on the left, without VMware and the SD-WAN deployments and the solutions we offer, it's not a very good user experience. When we deploy SD-WAN, we include our global private network solutions and our premium internet access China to help our organizations and our clients get in and out of China. The experience is there and it's consistent. As we wrap up, it's important to understand a little bit about the service quality at AireSpring. Our commitment is to deliver exceptional personalized service and support. And how do we help you, the agent, and how do we help your clients? It's important to understand that we have the solution engineers, the overlay and the product specialists, and an entire team that can help with the early engagement on these types of new sales opportunities. We ensure that we manage that process with communication throughout that life cycle. We're responsive to our partners, you and our customers, and we've got the expertise to execute and ensure that what we uncover, we can support and ensure a positive experience through our deployment. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. And the takeaway from today is really thinking about and determining if this makes sense to add to your solution portfolio. If it does, which we hope it does, please engage with your AireSpring channel partner and promote the solutions, and let's go ahead and close these deals together. So with that, we'd like to open it up for any questions that you have, as I've got Melvin Frederick on the phone as well. He is our Senior Solutions Engineer.
Thank you, Dave. We do have a question, and it is, can China somehow block your Los Angeles located static IP since it knows it is used to bypass their firewall?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, China does not have the ability to block that IP address via our partnership with our global partners to provide PIAC, which is the premium internet access solution. We have a private layer 2 connection with an approved company based in China to deliver that traffic to our Los Angeles POP. And that's where we'll provide the IP address, and China does not have the ability to block that.
Thank you, Melvin. Okay, we don't have any additional writing questions at this time. If anybody has a question, what I can do, if you don't want to put it in the window pane, I can give you the ability to unmute yourself. So if you can, let's see how we.
Ellen, I would just like to
yes, sure.
just add something to the presentation. So as Dave mentioned, we've built a global private network, which enables us to offer the same SD-WAN enhancement and remediation techniques that we were offering globally. We can now offer that internationally. So the way that you've been selling SD-WAN for years, we can now sell that internationally. And that's a big point. The hitless failover, the less than 2 millisecond routing between the circuits is a critical feature for SD-WAN. And to be able to offer that globally is a unique selling point for AireSpring. There are very few carriers in the space today. Globally, there's a handful of carriers that are actually getting into the space, and we're one of them. So we're really excited about the opportunity that's presented.
Thank you for that additional information, Melvin. While you were speaking, we had a few more questions entered. Actually, this is a follow-on question of the first one, so let's just knock that one out. But does that connection from your China-approved partner go through China's filter firewall for them to do any deep packet inspection?
No, that is a private connection via contractual agreements with our partner. That's a layer 2 connection. So that connection is private and secure, connecting the customer's location and our POP.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all right. Now we have someone, Alyssa, asking, are we only selling this to companies that have locations in China? Who else can use this?
This is offered internationally, everywhere, wherever we can provide internet access, we can sell our SD-WAN solution. Our gateways are located at 23 locations. So we're continuously building out this global private network. So it provides the gateway access, which provides the SD-WAN enhancement and remediation. But the global POPs also provide that layer 2 private connectivity from international locations back to the United States, or meshed between international locations. So there are a couple components just want to clarify. So you have your global AireSpring gateway access, and that's the gateway access that provides the SD-WAN features. Then you have your global private network POPs, and those POPs allow for layer 2 private traffic to be distributed from those global locations to another global location, or to the US location, to a US POP location.
Okay, great. Okay, another question. Let's see if I get this right. The independent IP is at the premise level or just the WAN level?
That there's an overlay that IP address will utilize, and that's provided by AireSpring. So the customer, like they will domestically, will order internet circuits that will have an underlay IP address. AireSpring with the SD-WAN solution will provide an overlay tunnel, and we'll be able to provide our public IP address for the customer to use on their local area network.
Okay. Do you want to bring up any of the diagrams that Dave had in some of his earlier slides at all? Maybe that might help people visualize it a little more, and just, what do you think? Would you like to do that?
Yeah, Dave, can you bring up one of those
Sure, which one would you like?
diagrams?
The green map with the dynamic multipath optimization, maybe, or we have the full flattened map of the globe.
Or the AGA map?
Sure, there you are.
Okay. Yep, so with the solution, the customer, as Dave mentioned, would have the VMware VeloCloud Edge device, and that Edge device would have the multiple circuits connected to it, and the POPs that we have turned up globally. Like I said, we have 23 POPs. We like those POPs as we have customer traffic connecting to them, and those POPs will provide the overlay tunnel back to the customer premise, and via that overlay tunnel, we're able to provide the public IP address to the customer. And the customer uses that IP address on their firewall, and that allows them to send, mission critical traffic to the gateway. So for that 3/4 protection that Dave mentioned, like most of the issues that the customer may have with those connections would be in the local neighborhood, and the ability to utilize multiple circuits routed in less than 2 milliseconds across the best available path using the dynamic multi-protocol optimization protocol by VMware allows them to have that 3/4 protection. So for those real-time applications that need, that hitless failover, we're able to do that internationally. And the customer can also route traffic as they would in the United States directly to the internet. So for anything that's not mission critical, that gets routed directly via that internet connection, the underlay internet connection. And that's a key point when we're talking about pricing out this solution. The global private network is a little more expensive than the pricing for domestic gateway access. So we really need to drill down when we're talking global gateway access. What is mission critical and really needs to go through that tunnel.
Okay. Okay, now we have, can you go into a little more detail about the redundancy and failover of our layer 2 connection into China?
Yes, so that so the global private network as well as the PIAC solution in China, it still uses public internet connectivity beginning in China, and then that gets connected to the closest POP, global POP. There are 8 global POPs in China, so it will utilize however many circuits the customer physically has connected to the edge device, and it will use both of those circuits with redundancy to connect to the POP. And once it connects to the POP, those are data centers with blended connectivity from multiple partners, and that's private connectivity. So there's multi carrier access at those POPs, and that allows us to provide a layer 2 connection from that location to the Los Angeles POP or to any other POP internationally.
Okay, great. Thank you. Here's another question, and it is, doesn't it seem preposterous to think that we can beat the China authoritarian control? Chinese authoritarian control.
Yeah, I mean, anything is possible, going into and out of China. These are agreements. There are 3 carriers that China has allowed and has agreements to transport traffic into and out of China the way AireSpring is allowed to via our partnership. So ultimately, China can control anything going into and out of China, but there are agreements in place for our partner to provide internet access into China, from China to our global POPs and to our domestic POPs.
Right, any additional questions? Oh, here we go. For the tech consultants, can you guys set together some? Oh, okay. If we could put together, a request has been made, if we could put together some questions, qualifications and questions that can unveil very fast the need for our solutions. I hope I captured that correctly. Dave, I know you in another presentation, I think we had a slide about that, but
yeah, we can
just
address. I mean, there's 2 elements to that, right? As we try to identify what's the perfect makeup, right? It's, obviously number one, let's talk about your locations. Where do they reside? And then we need to talk about what are the types of applications that they have today. It's important, is it an ERP solution? Is it just pure web-based solutions? What does that, another key question is, what does that data or what does that application do, and how does it communicate with maybe a location you have in another part of the globe, right? Maybe it's something in Europe, right? We need to understand, what's going on between the different branch offices. How do they communicate? What's mission critical to them? Is there certain SLA thresholds they have to keep within millisecond latencies and so forth? And that'll help us determine that. Melvin, what other thoughts do you have on helping identify the needs and requirements that you see from a technical perspective?
Yeah, well, we have that question there that you provide, but definitely, get solutions engineering involved upfront for global opportunities, so we can assess the client situation.
Yeah, I have loaded a couple of documents into the handout section for attendees to download. I did put the battle card in there. Does the battle card not have some qualifying questions? Does it map out
we've got a couple
personas? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got the buyer's persona. It's good to understand. A lot of different people make up decisions on when it comes to this. It's not just purely about the circuits or selling circuits. It's a deeper dive. It's a deeper discussion. And as Melvin mentioned, it's important where we want to be involved early as we can identify. And as Melvin mentioned, we do have a needs requirements form that if you utilize us on the front end of that, we'll do the heavy lifting. That's what we're here to do, is support that. We're your extension of your resources. So if you're wondering about how to approach it, you can engage us. We go through this process to understand, the types of applications. Is it SaaS based? Is it cloud based? What's their network makeup, right? What do they do today? What is their application traffic today? How do we future proof that, right? With where are they going? Do they see more video or voice applications having to be supported in these far reaching areas? And as we capture that kind of data, then we're able to take that back and then look at, right sizing the edge devices, looking at what the bandwidth makeup is, and then identifying to ensure that we not only support their application traffic today, but then look at how do we future-proof it to ensure that we get them into the right edge device and the right deployment, even including security and firewall access. We do a lot of things that, maybe for next training session we get into, and how do we support, security or insight. But we've got that with our battle cards. Some of those we've got the top 5 to 6 questions and so forth that you can ask. And some of it becomes lines of business as well. What are they doing about that? What is their equipment today? Are they in the middle of a tech refresh, right? We've run into situations where we've come in, they're at the end of their 3 to 4 year technical life cycle. They knew it was time to refresh. Because we're on the front end of what in our engagement with VMware, we've got our Senior VP of Engineering, Mike Chase, who sits on the board within the organization on the technical advisory board. We get access and we see a lot of things prior to what our competitors see. So with that, then we're able to take a look at that and then determine what's the roadmap and where are we going, so we can help our clients get ahead of it and be in front of the new applications and new solutions that are coming out, especially when we look towards CWS, which is a cloud web security that's coming down the pike as well, that overlays and sits on top of our VMware Edge device. That's the value we bring if we're engaged early and support you.
Okay. And Marino, you can follow up with your channel manager or send me an email if, to get more specific answers. We can follow up with you afterwards. So I think, Dave, is it fair to say that if our channel partners have any clients at all that are manufacturing plays, that they're probably someone they should be talking to? I'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't have a supply chain somewhere into China if they're doing any kind of manufacturing overseas. I mean, it's so prevalent now. But
yeah, that's why we kind of led with, what we see a lot of in our experience has been around manufacturing. I think if we take the top industries, right, you've got manufacturing in the purest sense. You have technology companies, right, that they may be in the verge of, producing different solutions and things of that nature. Then we do fall into retail as another big one. And so I think the top 5 verticals that we see are manufacturing, technology, construction as well, far-reaching areas to be able to support, especially with our global internet connectivity. And then healthcare is another one. And again, a lot of times we'll find that the U.S. could be the primary makeup, but you may be surprised when you start to look at your client base and really understand what are they doing in the U.S. It's not uncommon where they may have a large deployment in the U.S. 80% of their locations may fall in the U.S., but they may have 2 or 3 in Mexico or Canada or in Europe, and so we can support any one of those.
Good point. Yeah. We focused on China today because we've always thought that the Great Firewall of China was an interesting topic, and a lot of people don't understand it, not really aware of how deep it goes. But not everybody. I mean, to some people's questions, I mean, there are people just trying to get their jobs done and their employees the tools that they need to be productive in their jobs. And we want to make you aware that they do have challenges with connectivity and latency. That just trying to be a call center person using SaaS applications or an ERP application, that latency really does affect employee productivity and satisfaction. So it's just something that I'm sure they're seeing it, and there's ways that we can help you. So are there any additional questions at this time? If not, because I know we're getting to the top of the hour here, we can pivot into a quick company update. I know some people have had to leave the call, but any additional questions? If you raise your hand in the platform, go to webinar, I can track you down. I think we've answered everyone who had a question mark or a hand raised. Going once, going twice. I think we're probably okay then. All right. Okay. Well, for those of you who are still on the call, we're going to do a quick company update. Again, you can follow up with your channel manager. You can send an email to Dave Pierce directly or to myself. I always forget to introduce myself. I am Ellen Cahill. I'm the Senior VP of Marketing. I bet you get a few emails from me every week, so you're probably familiar with who I am. And then you have Frederick, Melvin Frederick, who can certainly help you as well in our solutions engineering team.